A slot technician with 12 years at a major Las Vegas casino just broke their NDA to reveal something that could save you thousands of dollars. What you're about to hear comes from multiple former casino employees who've watched players drain their life savings on specific machines. Machines engineered with math so brutal that even the people servicing them felt uncomfortable. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which slots are designed to empty your wallet faster than almost anything else on the casino floor. Casinos train their staff never to discuss this information with players. Most people find out too late, after they've already lost everything. Machine number one is Lightning Link. According to a former slot attendant named Jessica who worked at a major strip property for 7 years, there was a regular customer named David who came in 3 or 4 times a week. David played exclusively Lightning Link. Over the course of 3 months, Jessica watched him lose $23,000. She knew the exact amount because she processed his tax forms when he finally hit a jackpot for $8,400. A jackpot he celebrated like he'd broken even, not realizing he was still down over 14,000. Jessica stated she tried to hint that he should try different machines, but management had made it clear that any employee caught discussing machine configuration or payout rates would be terminated immediately. Here's what former technicians reveal about Lightning Link. The hold and spin mechanics create an illusion of control and near winning that keeps players locked in. Based on internal data from former employees, the base game RTP runs between 85 and 87%, meaning for every $100 you put in, the machine is programmed to keep 13 to 15. The bonus feature that everyone chases triggers approximately once every 180 to 250 spins, according to reports from multiple former slot technicians. But here's what makes it even worse. The near-miss programming on that hold and spin feature is specifically designed to fill 14 out of 15 spaces, creating this overwhelming sense that you almost won, that you were one symbol away from a major payout. Your brain processes that as progress when mathematically you just lost money. The progressive jackpots sitting at the top of the machine are visible from across the casino floor, and former employees report that's intentional. You watch those numbers climb, grand at 10,000, major at 1,200, minor at 200, and it creates this constant psychological pull. Former floor managers state players would say things like, I just need one more spin for hours, one more spin to trigger the bonus, one more spin to fill those spaces, one more spin to hit that progressive. And if you think that bonus trigger frequency is bad, wait until you hear about the next machine. Machine number two is Dragon Link. There's a documented case from a former surveillance operator that multiple employees still talk about. An elderly woman came in on a Tuesday morning and cashed out her retirement check for $47,000. She sat down at a Dragon Link machine, the Panda Magic version with the black and gold design that looks different from Lightning Link, but operates on nearly identical programming. The surveillance team watched her play for 11 hours straight. By 6 that evening, her credit meter read $320. She cashed out and left, $46,680 gone in a single day. The former surveillance operator stated management reviewed the tape not because they were concerned about the woman, but because they wanted to analyze what kept her playing that long without significant wins. Former slot technicians report Dragon Link has an even worse RTP than Lightning Link, typically configured between 84 and 86%. The bonus triggers less frequently, approximately once every 200 to 280 spins, based on internal documentation. But what makes this machine particularly insidious is that it comes in multiple versions. Happy and Prosperous, Golden Century, Panda Magic, Autumn Moon, they all look different with unique themes and artwork. But according to former technicians who programmed these machines, the math underneath is virtually identical. Players think they're trying different games when they're actually playing the same brutal programming with a different skin. A former floor manager named Patricia stated she personally watched players cycle through $500 to $1,000 per hour on Dragon Link during average sessions. The dragon theme itself is cultural manipulation, suggesting luck and fortune and prosperity when the reality is the opposite. And here's what former game designers have confirmed the collection mechanic. Where you're gathering coins or orbs or symbols triggers the same neurological response as completing a puzzle. It creates a compulsion loop. Your brain wants to complete the collection, even though the completion is entirely random and programmed to occur just rarely enough to keep you feeding money into the machine. Before I reveal the third machine, I really need you to subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever played any of these machines? What was your experience? Because what I'm about to tell you about the next machine is going to shock you, especially if you've ever played it. Now, former casino employees don't just talk about the math and the programming. They talk about machines specifically designed to exploit human psychology in ways that made them actually feel guilty watching people play. According to interviews with former slot managers and floor supervisors, game designers intentionally program certain features to trigger addictive behavior patterns that go beyond simple house edge. Several former employees stated these were the machines they felt worst about servicing because they watched them destroy people's lives in real time, not through terrible odds alone, but through psychological manipulation so effective it felt criminal even though it's completely legal. There's an entire category of machines that former casino workers call losses disguised as wins. Machine number 3, Wheel of Fortune Triple Extreme Spin. A former slot attendant named Rachel, who worked at a regional casino for 8 years, specifically called out this machine as the most psychologically manipulative she'd ever serviced. Here's what makes it so insidious. The machine plays winning sounds and animations, even when you've lost money on the spin. You bet $5, you win $3, and the machine erupts with celebration sounds, chimes and music and flashing lights, identical to the response when you actually win. According to former technicians who worked on these machines, they're calibrated so that approximately 35 to 40% of spins result in these false wins. You're sitting there watching your credit meter decrease while your brain is flooded with dopamine because the machine is telling you you're winning. The neurological impact of this is devastating, according to former employees who watched it happen. These losses disguised as wins trigger the exact same dopamine release as actual wins, training your brain to keep playing even as you lose money. There's a documented case Rachel shared about a player named Robert who came in twice a week for 5 months. Robert would play Wheel of Fortune Triple Extreme Spin for 3 to 4 hour sessions, and Rachel stated he would be smiling the entire time, seeming happy, laughing at the wheel spins, reacting to the bonus rounds. After one particular session, Rachel saw him cash out and she happened to notice his ticket, $280. She knew he'd bought in for $3,000. Robert had lost $2,720, and he'd seemed happy the entire session because the machine had convinced him he was winning. Multiple former casino workers report watching this exact pattern. Players in genuinely good moods while their credit meters steadily decreased. Players who would tell their friends they'd had a great time even after losing substantially. Amounts. Players who came back week after week because they remembered winning when mathematically they'd done nothing but lose. The cruel efficiency of this design is why casinos love these machines, according to former floor managers. Players stay at losses disguised as wins machines 23% longer on average based on internal data one former casino analyst shared. The machines generate revenue while keeping players in positive emotional states, which reduces complaints and increases return visits. Former employees state this is intentional psychological engineering, not an accident of game design. But if you think losses disguised as wins are disturbing, the next category is where it gets really dark, because former slot programmers have confirmed that near misses aren't random chance. They're intentionally programmed into the reels. Machine number 4, Triple Red Hot 7. 7-7. According to former technicians who worked directly on these machines, the virtual reel programming creates outcomes where jackpot symbols stop just above or just below the pay line far more frequently than random chance would ever dictate. A former game designer who spoke on condition of anonymity stated, "We specifically program the reels to show you what you almost won. It's the most effective retention mechanic in the entire industry. Players see those jackpot symbols right there, one position away, and their brain interprets it as progress." The frequency data is shocking. According to internal reports that former employees shared, Jackpot symbols appear in the visible window, meaning you can see them just above or below where they need to be, approximately once every 25 to 30 spins. Actually hitting the jackpot occurs once every 15,000 to 50,000 spins depending on the specific machine and denomination. You're seeing the symbol you need dozens of times per session, almost winning over and over, when the actual win is programmed to happen once every several months of regular play. The neurological exploitation here is that near misses activate the same brain regions as actual wins. Your brain processes seeing those symbols as evidence you're getting close, that the machine is ready to pay, that you just need to keep playing. Former floor supervisors report players would develop whole superstitions around near misses, believing the machine was warming up or getting ready or building toward a payout, when in reality the programming was simply showing them the symbols to keep them playing. There's a specific story from a former floor supervisor named Patricia that illustrates how devastating this programming is. She watched a player named Steven sit at triple red hot for 6 hours straight, from 2 in the afternoon until 8 at night. Steven kept saying the same thing, over and over. I almost hit it, I almost hit it. Every 20 or 30 spins when those red 7 symbols would land just off the pay line. Patricia stated she pulled Steven's play data after he finally left. He'd cycled through $8,400. His largest win had been $320. He never came close to actually hitting the jackpot, but he'd seen those symbols near the pay line over 200 times during his session. The programming had convinced him he was on the verge of winning for 6 straight hours while it systematically drained his money. Patricia stated, I knew exactly what that machine was doing. Every time I walked past and saw someone playing triple red hot, I felt like I was watching someone being conned in slow motion, and there was nothing I could say without losing my job. The documentation goes deeper according to former casino analysts. Internal reports specifically track which machines produce the most near misses because those machines consistently generate the highest time on device metrics. Casinos know players stay longer at machines that show them near wins, so they configure floor layouts to feature these machines prominently. And here's what makes it even more disturbing. This is completely legal. Nevada Gaming Control Board and other regulatory agencies have approved this programming. When consumer advocates have challenged near-miss programming, casino representatives claim players enjoy near misses because they add excitement to the gaming experience. But former employees who watch people lose their savings to these machines tell a very different story about what that excitement actually costs. So those machines use psychological tricks that feel borderline criminal even though they're legal. But what if I told you there's something even more calculated going on? Former casino floor managers and surveillance operators have revealed that it's not just about individual machines, it's about where those machines are placed and how the entire casino floor is engineered to keep you playing. When you understand what's happening with strategic placement and environmental design, you'll see why former employees call it the invisible trap. And the next section is going to completely change how you see every casino you ever walk into. Because the manipulation isn't just in the machines themselves. It's in every sightline, every sound, every step you take from the moment you enter. It's not just which machines are draining players, it's where those machines are placed. Former casino floor managers, surveillance operators, and even architects who designed casino layouts have spoken out about the deliberate strategies casinos use to position machines. According to multiple former employees, every single machine placement is calculated, every sightline is engineered, and every sound is amplified or muted for a specific psychological effect. A former floor manager with 15 years of experience at a major strip property stated, we had heat maps showing exactly where players would walk, where their eyes would land first, where they'd pause, where they'd sit down on impulse. Nothing was left to chance. Every machine on that floor was positioned based on data about human behavior and traffic patterns. Placement strategy number. Former employees call the entrance trap. A former floor manager named Michael, who worked at 3 different Las Vegas properties, detailed how entrance machines are specifically selected and configured differently from machines deeper in the casino. According to Michael and corroborating testimony from other former floor managers, machines positioned near main entrances and primary walkways are often configured to pay out more frequently than machines in other areas. These machines are typically set 2 to 3 percentage points higher in RTP compared to machines in secluded zones. Still negative expected value for players, still profitable for casinos, but loose enough to create ambient winning sounds that draw people deeper into the gaming floor. The specific machines used in these positions are chosen for their sound profiles. Quick hit machines with their distinctive ascending tone, standard versions of Wheel of Fortune that make loud clicking sounds, classic 3 reel games that produce sharp mechanical noises, all positioned where their sounds will carry across the casino entrance. The deception is calculated according to former surveillance workers. Players walking through the casino hear these wins happening near the entrance, bells ringing, machines playing victory music, people around them winning $400 or $600 or $800. And the assumption forms that the entire casino is paying out, that the floor is loose, that tonight might be a lucky night. What they don't see is the configuration difference. A former slot technician named David stated he was specifically instructed to set entrance area machines at 89 to 91% RTP, while machines in high-traffic dead zones were set at 85 to 87%. The casino willingly accepts a slightly lower hold percentage on entrance machines, because those machines serve a marketing function. Former surveillance workers report they would watch the same pattern dozens of times every single shift. Someone wins $400 on an entrance. Quick hit machine creates excitement and ambient energy. 10 other people sit down at nearby machines that are configured much tighter, and within an hour the casino has made back that $400 payout plus $2,000 more from the players who were drawn in by the sound and energy of that initial win. A former slot manager named Jennifer admitted, "We called them Judas goats. That's actually the term we used internally. They led players to slaughter." But here's what really made former employees uncomfortable. Placement strategy number 2, which targets the highest traffic areas with the worst machines. A former floor supervisor named Angela, who worked at multiple properties over 12 years, explained how machines positioned near bathrooms, restaurants, showrooms, and popular table game sections are configured with the lowest RTP on the entire floor. The logic is ruthlessly simple, according to Angela. Players at these machines are either killing time, waiting for dinner reservations or friends or shows, or they're making impulsive decisions while walking from one area of the casino to another. These players aren't settled in for serious sessions. They're thinking, just a few spins while I wait, or just 5 minutes while I'm walking past, which means they don't track their losses as carefully and they don't notice machine configuration differences. According to former technicians, machines in these zones are typically set at minimum allowable RTP. 85% for penny slots, 86 to 87% for higher denominations. The most common machines placed in these positions are Buffalo Series, Lightning Link, Dragon Link, and older video poker variants with worse paytables than identical games positioned elsewhere. The financial impact is staggering. A former floor manager shared documentation about the 6 Lightning Link machines positioned outside his property's buffet entrance. These machines were configured at 85% RTP, and according to internal revenue reports, they generated between $40,000 and $60,000 per week in casino profit from just 6 machines in one hallway. Players stopping for just a few spins on their way to or from dinner would sit down for what they intended to be 5 minutes and end up staying 45 minutes, sometimes longer, feeding money into machines deliberately configured with the worst math on the floor. Multiple former employees specifically mentioned the bathroom corridor trap. Players stop on their way to the restroom thinking they'll play one quick game, and the combination of impulsive decision-making plus the psychological hooks built into these machines means that 5-minute bathroom break turns into an hour-long session. A former surveillance worker stated, "We had cameras specifically trained on those bathroom hallway machines because they were our highest revenue generators per square foot. Management would review that footage constantly, analyzing what kept players there, what made them stay longer than they planned." Placement strategy number 3 is newer and targets high-limit and VIP slot areas. Former slot managers report these exclusive areas often have worse mathematical configuration than the main floor, despite the higher denominations and the premium positioning. The psychology is cruel in its effectiveness. Players in high-limit areas are psychologically primed to play bigger and to feel special, to feel like high rollers, which makes them far less price-sensitive to the actual house edge they're facing. These areas use velvet ropes and private entrances and dedicated hosts to create the illusion of exclusivity and better treatment. But according to former employees, the machines inside are configured just as tightly or sometimes tighter than their main floor equivalents. High limit versions of Buffalo, Lightning Link, Dragon Link, progressive jackpot games, these are configured with RTPs of 88 to 90%, which sounds reasonable until you calculate what that means at $5 or $10 or $25 per spin. A former VIP host named Richard shared a specific case of a player who moved from the main floor where he'd been playing quarter denomination Buffalo, configured at 88% RTP to the high limit salon where he played $5 Buffalo, also configured at 88%. The player assumed the high limit version would be looser, would have better odds, would justify the higher denomination. He lost $34,000 over 2 weeks. The math was identical, same 88% RTP, but the denomination was 20 times higher, which meant his losses accumulated 20 times faster. The VIP illusion made him feel valued and special, while the configuration extracted more money per hour than he'd ever lost on the main floor. So, placement is engineered, machine positioning is weaponized, and every step you take through a casino is guided by calculated psychological architecture. But the real secret, the one that made multiple former employees say they couldn't ethically stay in the industry, is what's happening in the actual programming and technology of these machines. Former slot technicians have revealed details about how machines are programmed that most players never imagine. And when you understand what's actually happening in the software, you'll realize the house edge is only part of the story. What I am about to share comes from former technicians who risked legal consequences to speak out, and their testimony about remote configuration, progressive dilution, and bonus round manipulation is going to fundamentally change how you see these machines. We've talked about which machines drain players and where they're placed. Now we need to talk about what former technicians discovered inside these machines. The following information comes from interviews with former slot technicians, compliance workers, and one anonymous former game designer who still works in the industry but spoke under condition of complete anonymity. Everything I'm about to share is legal, regulated, approved by gaming control boards, signed off by compliance departments. And that's what makes it so disturbing, according to the former employees who revealed it. Several of them stated this is the information casinos threatened them legally to never discuss, the information that would cost them their careers if they were ever identified as sources. Understanding this could change whether you ever play slots again. Programming. Secret number 1 is server-based gaming and remote configuration. Modern slot machines can have their programming changed remotely from a central server, sometimes while you're actively playing them. A former technician named David, who worked for a major slot manufacturer for 9 years, explained how server-based gaming actually functions. Most modern machines manufactured after 2015 are connected to casino server systems through dedicated network infrastructure. These servers can adjust payback percentages, bonus trigger frequencies, volatility settings, and denomination configurations without anyone ever physically opening the machine. The regulatory gray area that makes this legal is that changes can't occur mid-game, meaning the server can't change the programming while your spin is in progress. But between games, between individual button presses, the entire mathematical configuration of that machine can be altered. The machine you're playing at 8 p.m. might have fundamentally different programming than the same physical machine had at 2 p.m. What former employees witnessed is what makes this practice so disturbing. Multiple former slot technicians report being ordered to remotely tighten machines during peak periods, Friday nights, Saturday nights, holiday weekends, and loosen them during slow periods like Tuesday mornings or Wednesday afternoons. A former floor manager named Jennifer, who worked at a major regional casino, stated she watched her slot director adjust Lightning Link machines from 87% RTP to 85% every Friday at 6 p.m. when the weekend crowd started arriving, then increase them back to 87% on Tuesday mornings when the casino was nearly empty. Players had no way of knowing. The same physical machine, the same cabinet, the same graphics and sounds and button layout, but the mathematical reality underneath had changed. You could play Lightning Link on Saturday night, configured at 85%, come back Wednesday morning and play the exact same machine, configured at 87%. And you'd be playing an essentially different game with different odds and never know it. The invisible disadvantage is what former employees say haunts them. Players develop superstitions about specific machines, believing machine number 42 near the window is luckier than machine number 43 by the pillar, returning week after week to their favorite physical cabinet, never realizing that machine's programming has been changed 3 or 4 times since their last visit based on casino occupancy projections and revenue targets. One former compliance worker who processed these configuration changes shared internal reports showing some high-traffic machines had their settings adjusted 3 or 4 times per week, tightened for weekend crowds, loosened for weekday slow periods, adjusted again for promotional events. A former technician named Marcus stated, "I felt like we were moving the goalposts while people were playing. They thought they were playing one game with consistent rules, but we'd changed the fundamental math. They were making decisions about how much to bet and how long to play based on assumptions that weren't true anymore." Programming. Secret number 2 is linked progressive dilution. You know those massive progressive jackpots that climb into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars? Megabucks jackpots, wide area Wheel of Fortune progressives, multi-casino linked games with enormous top prizes? Former employees say there's something about them most players never realize. Wide area progressive jackpots are linked across dozens or hundreds of machines, sometimes across multiple properties or even multiple casino companies. The more machines linked to a progressive, the lower the base game RTP typically becomes. A former slot director named Jennifer, who worked at a major strip property, explained it simply: "The progressive jackpot funding comes from somewhere. It doesn't materialize from nothing. It comes from reducing the base game payback percentage. Every bet you make, a portion funds the progressive, and that portion has to come from somewhere. It comes from your expected return on regular gameplay." According to former technicians, machines linked to major progressives can have base game RTPs as low as 83 to 85%, with 3 to 5% of each bet going directly into progressive funding. The math becomes brutal when you calculate it out. Internal documentation that former employees shared shows the odds of hitting a major wide area progressive can be as low as 1 in 50 million spins. You're playing a base game configured at 84% RTP, meaning you're losing 16 cents of every dollar to house edge, and an additional 3 to 5 cents of every dollar is funding a jackpot you have a 1 in 50 million chance of winning. A former compliance analyst stated, "The progressive meter climbing creates this sense that the jackpot is building toward being won, like it's getting ready to hit. Players see it go from 800,000 to 850,000 to 900,000 and think it's getting close. The odds don't change. It could hit on the next spin or not hit for another year. The meter is just a visual representation of accumulated bets. It has zero correlation to when the jackpot will actually occur." There's a specific case a former floor manager shared about a player who spent $67,000 over 3 years chasing a Megabucks jackpot. The player came in twice a week, played exclusively Megabucks, tracked every spin in a notebook, convinced himself he could identify patterns in when the jackpot was due to hit based on how long it had been since the last win. Over 3 years and an estimated 400 sessions, his largest single win was $800. He never came close to the progressive. He'd poured 67,000 into a game with 84% base RTP and 1 in 50 million jackpot odds because the visible progressive meter climbing made him believe he was getting closer. A former floor supervisor stated, "We loved when players camped at progressive machines. We knew the base game math was terrible for them, and we knew the jackpot odds were astronomical, but they'd sit there for hours watching that meter climb." Programming. Secret number 3 is bonus round manipulation. The picks, spins, or selections you make in bonus rounds aren't affecting the outcome. They're theatrical presentations of predetermined results. A former game designer who still works in the industry but spoke anonymously explained this clearly. "The moment you trigger a bonus round, The RNG has already calculated your result. Everything that happens after that, every pick you make, every selection, every spin of a bonus wheel is animation. We're showing you a predetermined outcome in an entertaining way. Your choices have zero impact. This matters because players spend mental and emotional energy developing bonus round strategies that are completely meaningless. They believe picking the middle box is luckier than picking the corner box, or that they should always pick the same position, or that varying their picks improves results. According to former technicians, the programming calculates your bonus result instantly, then displays that result through whatever selection interface the game uses. Most modern video slots, including the entire Buffalo series, all Lightning and Dragon Link games, any machine with pick-style bonuses or wheel spins or selection features, all of them use predetermined bonus outcomes. You're not choosing anything. You're watching an animation of a choice that's already been made by the RNG. What makes this even more manipulative, according to former employees, is that machines program near misses within bonus rounds. You'll pick boxes and reveal small prizes. Then, after the bonus ends, the machine shows you what was in the boxes you didn't pick, and one of them contains the major prize. That's not showing you what was really there. That's showing you what the animation was programmed to display to make you feel like you barely missed the big win. A former slot technician stated, "Players would tell me about their bonus strategies, about how they'd figured out patterns for which symbols to pick or which wheels to spin. I never had the heart to tell them it was determined the instant they triggered the bonus. Everything after that was just theater." So the technology is manipulated through remote configuration. The progressive games are mathematically brutal, despite their attractive jackpots. And even the bonus rounds you think you're playing are predetermined animations. The programming, the technology, the systems underlying these machines, all engineered against you in ways you never see. But there's one more layer of deception that former employees say is the most insidious of all. Casinos have convinced millions of players that reward programs and players' clubs are giving them something, that VIP status and comp dollars and tier levels represent value and appreciation. Former casino hosts, marketing employees, and VIP managers have revealed the dark truth about how these programs actually function. And this next section was the hardest for former employees to talk about because many of them personally watched their favorite regular customers get destroyed by these programs, watched people chase tier status and comp offers straight into financial ruin. The stories you're about to hear will make you question whether you should ever join another players club. Former casino hosts, VIP managers, and marketing employees have come forward with information about how reward programs and players clubs are actually designed. And on the surface, these programs seem like they benefit players. Free play offers, complimentary meals, hotel discounts, exclusive invitations. According to insiders, they're actually sophisticated data collection and behavior modification systems engineered to increase player losses. What I am about to share comes from multiple former casino hosts with a combined 40-plus years of experience managing VIP players, and the personal stories they shared about players who were destroyed by these programs are heartbreaking. Trap number one is the tier chase. A former casino host named Linda, who managed VIP programs at two major strip properties for 14 years, explained how tier structures are deliberately designed to exploit human psychology. Players Club programs have multiple tiers with names like Gold, Platinum, Diamond, 7 stars, each tier requiring specific amounts of coin-in or points to achieve and maintain. Linda stated the benefits of moving up a tier almost never mathematically justify the amount you have to lose to get there. Moving from Platinum to Diamond tier might require $75,000 to $150,000 in total coin-in depending on the property and the games you play. But the increased benefits, better comp rates, exclusive lounge access, resort credits, priority reservations, typically equal $1,200 to $2,500 in actual value. You're losing potentially $10,000 to $15,000 in expected value based on house edge to receive benefits worth a fraction of that loss. The behavior modification is what makes this trap so effective, according to former marketing employees who designed these systems. Casinos send targeted tier progress emails showing players exactly how close they are to the next level. You're only 8,000 points away from Diamond status. You have until December 31st to maintain your current tier. You've earned 63% of the points needed for the next level. These messages create artificial deadlines and urgency, triggering loss aversion psychology where players feel compelled to reach arbitrary goals even when reaching those goals costs them money. There's a specific case Linda shared about a regular player named Robert, who came to her property twice a month for almost 3 years. In early December, Linda sent Robert his tier progress statement, showing he needed 4,200 more points to maintain diamond status for the following year. Robert came in the week before Christmas and played 4 consecutive days, cycling through an additional $23,000 trying to hit that point threshold. He made it, earned his diamond status, and the increased benefits he received for the entire following year were worth approximately $1,800 in comp value. Linda stated, "I watched him celebrate maintaining his tier like he'd accomplished something meaningful. I knew he'd just spent $23,000 to get benefits worth $1,800. I felt sick about it, but that's what the program was designed to do." The loss rebate trap makes this even worse according to former VIP managers. Higher tiers often include loss rebates where the casino returns 10 to 20% of documented losses, which sounds generous until you realize you have to lose money to receive the rebate. A former diamond level host named Marcus explained, "We'd have players intentionally losing money during the last week of the month, trying to trigger loss rebates. They'd turn a $3,000 loss into a $4,000 loss to get that $800 rebate check, not realizing they just lost an additional $1,000 to get $800 back." Former marketing employees admit they A/B tested tier structures specifically to create just out of reach feelings that drove increased play. Internal retention data shows tier chasing players have 35 to 40% higher lifetime loss averages compared to non-carded players or players who don't engage with tier systems. Trap number 2 is the comp illusion, and former casino hosts have revealed how comps and free play actually work in ways most players never understand. Comps are calculated based on theoretical loss, which casinos call theo, your total coin-in multiplied by the house edge of whatever you're playing. If you play $10,000 through a slot machine with a 10% house edge, your theo is $1,000. According to former hosts, most casinos comp back 30 to 40% of your theoretical loss. So from that $10,000 coin-in with $1,000 theo, the casino might give you 300 to 400 in comps. Here's what players miss. You've still lost money. If the machine performed exactly at its programmed RTP, you've lost $1,000 and received 400 back in comps. You're net negative $600, but the comp structure makes you feel like you earned something, like the casino gave you something, when they actually just gave you a partial refund of your own losses. Former VIP manager testimony from a person named Marcus reveals how hosts are specifically trained to frame comps as rewards and earnings, never as partial loss recovery, because the psychology is completely different. Players view comps as free money, as casino generosity, as proof the casino values them, when mathematically comps are just returning a fraction of the money the player already lost to house edge. The free play trap is even more deceptive according to former marketing analysts. Free play credits must be cycled through machines and can't be cashed out directly, and winnings from free play are often credited back as additional free play rather than cash, which continues the cycle. A former host shared a specific case of a player who received $500 in free play promotional credits, played it through a Lightning Link machine, won $1,200, had the winnings credited as free play, played that through, and ended the session having deposited $800 of her own money to keep playing because she'd been drawn into the cycle. The mail offer addiction is what former marketing employees say they feel most guilty about. Casinos use direct mail with personalized offers calculated to trigger return visits, specifically when players haven't been to the property in a certain time period. Former marketing analysts state they had algorithms that calculated exactly what offer would bring each player back and how much they'd likely lose once they arrived. These offers aren't random. They're behavior modification tools disguised as generosity. Trap number 3 is the host relationship itself, and multiple former casino hosts describe being trained to build personal relationships with players specifically to increase their play. Hosts remember birthdays, family details, personal stories, creating genuine feeling friendships that are actually managed business relationships, with productivity metrics attached. A former host named Sarah, who worked in VIP services for 11 years, explained, I cared about my players, I really did, but I was also evaluated quarterly on their Theo. If their play decreased, I was expected to get them back to the casino to find out what was wrong, to make them feel special enough to return. The relationship was real, but it was also transactional in ways players never fully understood. Hosts invite players to exclusive events, private tournaments, holiday parties, experiences that feel like rewards but are actually designed to increase time in the casino and overall play volume. Everything is tracked according to former surveillance and database workers. How long you play, which machines, what denominations, win-loss patterns, even what you eat and drink, and what time of day you typically arrive. Former hosts report they maintained detailed profiles on every VIP player, including psychological notes about what motivates them, what offers work best, what emotional states make them play more or less. There's a specific case Sarah shared about a player named Tom, who considered his casino host a genuine friend. Tom would specifically come to the casino during times his host was working because he enjoyed spending time together. Over 3 years, Tom lost $180,000 in what felt like a friendship, but was actually a managed business relationship designed to maximize his lifetime value to the property. Sarah stated, when I finally left the industry, Tom sent me a message saying he'd miss seeing me. I cried because I knew his friendship was real, but my job had been to monetize that friendship. Multiple former hosts say they eventually left because they couldn't handle the emotional manipulation they were required to perform. So everything we've covered, the machine programming, the placement strategies, the reward program traps, all of that is standard practice across the industry, refined over decades, legal and regulated and approved. But former employees say what's coming next, what's being implemented right now in casinos across the country, represents a new level of player exploitation that most people won't realize is happening until they've already been affected. This final section covers the newest technologies and strategies that former employees say made them speak out. The emerging threats that represent the future of how casinos will extract money from players. Former casino employees didn't just talk about established practices, they warned about new technologies and strategies being implemented right now. Technologies that represent a fundamental shift in how casinos extract money from players. This information comes from former IT specialists, surveillance operators, and floor managers who left the industry within the last 2 to 3 years, and several of them stated they went public specifically because they believe players deserve to know what's being tested and deployed on casino floors as we speak. Emerging threat number 1 is AI-driven player tracking and intervention systems. Casinos are implementing artificial intelligence that monitors individual player behavior in real time and intervenes to maximize losses. A former IT specialist named Alex, who worked on implementing these systems at a major regional casino, explained how they actually function. The AI monitors every player with a card inserted in a machine, tracking play speed, bet sizing, win-loss patterns, session length, betting rhythm changes, even facial expressions captured by overhead cameras. When the AI detects a player is about to leave based on behavior indicators like slower play speed, looking around the casino floor, reducing bet sizes, or checking the time repeatedly, it triggers events specifically designed to extend the session. According to former floor managers who worked with these systems, interventions include triggering a small win sequence on the machine, having a host coincidentally walk by with a personalized offer, adjusting nearby machine sounds to be more enticing, or even sending a mobile app notification about expiring promotional credits. The profiling is what makes this technology so invasive, according to former employees. The AI builds psychological profiles of individual players over time, identifying who responds most to near-miss programming, who chases losses aggressively, who is motivated by tier status progress, who responds to personal attention from hosts, who plays longer when surrounded by winning sounds from adjacent machines. Each player is managed differently based on their unique psychological profile and behavioral patterns. A former floor manager named Patricia, who watched the system being beta tested in 2022, stated the casino reported a 17% increase in average session length and a 12% increase in average session loss Within the first 3 months of implementation, players were staying longer and losing more because an AI system was intervening at precisely the moments they were psychologically vulnerable to extending play. Patricia stated, "We could watch it work in real time from the surveillance room. A player would slow down, start looking around, clearly getting ready to cash out. The AI would flag them, trigger an intervention, and 70% of the time the player would stay for at least another 30 minutes. It was incredibly effective. It was also really disturbing because players had no idea they were being individually monitored and manipulated by an algorithm. Multiple former employees report this technology is being rapidly deployed across major casino chains throughout 2024 and 2025. The average player has no idea they're being individually monitored and managed by an AI system that knows more about their gambling psychology than they know about themselves. Emerging threat number two is skill-based and hybrid gaming machines. Casinos are introducing what they market as skill-based slots that combine traditional slot mechanics with video game style elements, and former employees warn these machines hide the same brutal math under an illusion of player control. A former slot director named Rachel, who worked at a stripped property until 2023, explained these machines are being specifically marketed to younger players who grew up with video games and aren't interested in traditional slots. The deception is that these machines create the illusion that your skill matters when the outcome is still primarily determined by random number generation, with slight skill modifiers that rarely exceed 1 to 3%, according to former game designers. The base RTP is still configured at 85 to 88%, regardless of skill level. Players invest more time and money because they believe they're improving. That practice makes them better, that they can beat the game through skill development when the mathematical reality is barely different from traditional slots. Specific examples include Game of Thrones slots with skill-based bonus rounds, Space Invaders-themed machines, Danger Arena with first-person shooter elements, all creating the perception of skill-based outcomes while operating on traditional slot math. There's a specific case a former floor manager shared about a player who spent over 40 hours across 2 weeks practicing a skill-based slot machine, convinced he was developing strategies and improving his performance. The floor manager pulled his play data and found the player had lost $8,700 over those 14 days. His win rate hadn't improved. His bonus round performance hadn't increased. He'd spent 40 hours and nearly $9,000 on what was functionally a standard slot machine with video game aesthetics. Former marketing employees state these machines specifically target younger demographics who grew up with gaming and are less interested in traditional slots. And multiple former employees expressed deep concern that skill-based gaming will create a new generation of problem gamblers who don't realize they're playing rigged games disguised as skill-based entertainment. Emerging threat. Number 3 is mobile and online integration systems. Casinos are linking physical slot machines to mobile apps and online platforms in ways that former employees say remove natural barriers that help players regulate their behavior. Former app developers who worked on these integrated systems explain they allow players to track play from home, receive offers on their phones, preload money into casino accounts remotely, even preview and practice games before coming to the property. According to former marketing analysts, these apps are designed to increase visit frequency and remove friction points that might cause players to pause or reconsider. Specific features include push notifications when you're geographically near a casino property, lucky machine alerts claiming a specific machine is hot or ready to pay, remote account deposits so you never have to visit a casino cage, and session summaries that highlight wins prominently while minimizing loss totals through careful formatting. The data collection extends beyond the casino, according to former IT workers. These apps track your location throughout the day, your browsing history within the app, what games you preview most often, how you respond to different offer types, and this data is shared across multiple casino properties within the same corporate family. Former employees state the explicit goal is making casino gambling as frictionless as possible, removing natural breaks like walking to an ATM or casino cage, removing barriers like having to remember to bring your player's card, removing pause points that might help problem gamblers regulate their behavior. Multiple former marketing employees report major casino chains are aggressively expanding these integrated systems throughout 2024 and 2025 as core business strategy. Emerging threat number 4 is cashless gaming systems. Casinos across the country are moving toward completely cashless slot play, where players load money onto their players' club cards or mobile apps and machines, accept card tap or phone tap instead of bills. Former floor managers state they were explicitly told cashless systems increase play because they remove the psychological barrier of watching physical cash disappear into machines. Research consistently shows people spend more using digital payment versus physical currency, and casinos are exploiting this psychological reality. Cashless systems also give casinos perfect data on every single bet, win, and loss with no gaps in tracking. Without physical cash, there's no need to walk to an ATM, which creates a natural pause and reflection point that helps some players recognize when they should stop. Former employees who worked on cashless implementation report several major Las Vegas and regional casino chains are moving toward cashless only zones and eventually cashless only properties. During testing phases, former slot directors report seeing average session losses increase by 18% compared to the same players in cash-enabled zones. Players lose track of spending more easily when money becomes abstract numbers on a screen, rather than physical bills leaving their hands. So now you know the specific machines draining players, the psychological tactics being used, the placement strategies, the programming secrets, the reward program traps, and the emerging technologies that make everything worse. This information comes from former casino employees who risked legal consequences to share what they witnessed. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening, please subscribe and share it with anyone you know who gambles. Let me know in the comments. Did anything in this video surprise you? Have you experienced any of these tactics firsthand? Most players find out too late. Now you have the information to protect yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.